Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people looking to live life at their peak potential. Chock full of real-world tools and knowledge that you can apply in your life today. By providing you with a lens into the lives, beliefs, practices, and actions of those who are already living extraordinary lives, the Performance Enhancing Podcast will help you shift your mindset or create that change in your daily rituals and habits so you can explode with success in the areas of life that are most important to you. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with SatoriPrime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Performance Enhancing Podcast with your host, Ilan Ferdman. It's pep talk time, and today we're going to be talking about morning rituals. So this is something that I think I've touched on through a variety of different people on the show. However, I've been kind of going through the transformation myself, and I figured, hey, why not share with you? It's funny, so out of the morning ritual, I've actually started to read a lot more books, and we'll get into that in just a second about how and why I did all this. But the last two books, ironically enough, that I read, one was The Perfect Day Formula by a guy named Greg Ballantyne, who I'm actually going to interview here in a few weeks. And then the other one was by Robin Sharma, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And I don't know why I haven't read that book. The Saint, the Surfer, the CEO is one of my top recommendations for anyone kind of starting in the personal development world or interested in going on a journey of some sort, and love the way he writes. And that book's just been sitting on my shelf for ages. And I finally went on vacation to Toronto, and I just grabbed it, and I was like, I'm sure this is going to be an awesome vacation book. And I crushed it, and I think 4 days of vacation. It really was that good. But both of them actually spoke about a morning ritual and waking up earlier. Now, I'm going to start by prefacing this and telling you all that I love to sleep. I'm a big sleeper. I'm a heavy sleeper. I can sleep through anything. And for a long time, as an entrepreneur, one of the kind of things that I would boast, or notches on my belt, if you will, was the fact that I don't have to wake up to an alarm clock. And it was one of these things that I think is really nice to say, and I really did love it. Obviously, once I had kids, I was naturally waking up because my kids would come into our room at 7:30, so I was naturally waking up at that time. But you guys know by now, or for those of you that are new, I'm obsessed with neuroscience. And what happens when you're waking up in a state not of your choosing, in other words, like when your kids are kind of running into your room and that startles you awake, what you're instantly doing in that moment is pumping your body full of cortisol, which is a really, really negative thing for your body. It's basically like a stress hormone that the body sends out. Not to say that kids jumping in your bed or making sounds as they walk into your room is technically stressful, but to the body, it's a jarring experience, and that's what it does. Likewise, waking up and opening your emails or opening Facebook does the same exact thing. Why? Because in essence, what you're doing is you're checking your email, and if you have a thought like, oh God, I hope I don't get this email from so-and-so, or you get an email from somebody that kind of like riles you up in some sort of fashion, or you see a post on Facebook that's really negative or you don't like, all of that kind of stuff starts your day off in a very, very negative physiological way. That's not to say that you say like, oh man, that was really negative. But if it's perceived like that to your brain, then that's what happens. Cortisol gets sent, and you're basically starting your day off in a not so good way. I don't know how else to say it without making it right or wrong, but not so great day. So I knew all these studies, and yet I was hanging on to those two things. One, love my sleep. Two, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't need to wake up to an alarm clock. And as life has its funny way, and hopefully this is not the first time you've heard this message, and maybe this time hearing the message from me is kind of like the nail in the coffin that you need to at least go and try this. I am surrounded by some incredible people, most of which happen to be entrepreneurs. And I started hearing this from a slew of the people around me, waking up at 5, waking up at 5:30, some people waking up at 3 or 4, way too early. And I thought, you know what? I really want to give this a try. Now, I came back from Israel, and obviously jet lag has its way of kicking your ass. And I found myself naturally waking up at around 4:30, 4:45, 5. And rather than try to fight and put myself back to sleep, I thought, you know what? I'm going to use this as an opportunity, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to meditate. So whereas before, once I learned about the whole cortisol thing, I started waking up at roughly around 7 and meditating for about 20, 25 minutes, something like that. When I started reading more about the morning ritual and other pieces that you can do in this, the Winner's Bible talked about it. The Perfect Day Formula spoke about it. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari spoke about it. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of sold. So I started waking up at around 5 after my trip to Israel and really enjoying the morning. I would meditate from anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour plus. But because there's really no time limit, before I had to kind of like set a time limit for, 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes at most. Here, I don't have a time limit. So I could just go there. Like this morning, for example, I meditated for an hour and 5 minutes. I have a practice that I do for about 20, 25 minutes. And then there's just some like background music that I'm listening to, and I just let myself go. And I usually just check on the time. So an hour and 5 minutes was my meditation this morning. And it was fantastic. And then kind of waking up with the sun. By the time I open my eyes and get out of my meditation, I grab a book, which I've put on the mantle next to me, next to my cozy corner, if you will. And I just start reading. And that usually gives me anywhere from like an hour to an hour and a half or so of reading time, which I value tremendously. Like if I didn't have to do anything for work, I think I would probably spend 80% of my day just reading or ingesting information in some way, shape, or form. I've really gotten accustomed to listening to books on audio and have been reading less and less and less. And this is it's been such a beautiful experience to be able to stop and take notes. And I literally, since I started this, so I came back from Israel on, let's say beginning of May 1. So it's June 1st actually today. So 30 days, I've read 5 books. Just read. I mean, I've listened to another 3, but I've read 5 books during that time, which is amazing to me because basically like in an hour and a half, I'm plowing through, 50 to, depending on the book, 50 to like 70, 80 pages. I'm not actually a very fast reader. The other thing I've noticed is I've actually developed becoming faster, reading faster and faster and faster. So all of these amazing things, but mostly here's what I can tell you. So the good news is my morning routines were incredible. The bad news was that by 7 p.m. after waking up at 5 in the morning, I was exhausted, like brain literally clicked off. My wife would sit there with me at dinner and I would sit there like a zombie. Now, I know enough about the human brain and I know enough about habit forming to realize that whenever you try something new, the natural process is that you're going to throw your body into a state of unknown. But here's the beauty. Within 21 days, your body can adjust to a new pattern. 21 or faster, but usually 21 days. Meaning that while it was a struggle for me in the evening, I knew that basically what my body had to do was kind of readjust its circadian rhythm, meaning I would need to go to bed earlier, to wake up earlier, so I still maximize my sleep time. I got good sleep, and I was actually feeling normal in the evenings. And it didn't take me 21 days, but it took me about 2 weeks, maybe 2 and change. And then that all went away. So now I have the huge benefit of this morning time. And again, you could do so many different things. You can, one of the things that I'm incorporating now is visualization for 5 to 7 minutes every morning as part of that ritual. So after I meditate, pull out my visualization book, just go through it. It's in the Winner's Bible, highly recommend it. I'll do a separate podcast about that book and things that I've learned from there. Some people can incorporate journaling, gratitude, things of that nature. Figure out what works for you. Some people will do yoga for 15 minutes. You just got to figure out what works for you. But the one thing I can tell you is that if you want to be a high performer, and if you're listening to this podcast, I know that you do, those 2 hours before the world wakes up, there's something so peaceful and so calming. There's a connection. I've been meditating prior to that for probably not a year, maybe like 9-10 months, something like that. And while the meditations have been good, and I've definitely felt a massive shift in my day, just calmer, peaceful, the fuse, to get reacted was much, much longer. And yet I didn't feel like I was really getting into the meditations. As soon as I started waking up in the morning, it's somehow just easier to get into that state. And I don't know if it's the fact that I just psychologically know that I have more time, like my kids are going to run into the room, it's dark outside. I don't know what it is, but I can tell you from my experience, it's been incredible. And so the message that I want to leave you guys with is this. This is something that's still new to me. I don't pretend to be an expert at it. I don't have one of these like, I started this 21 days ago and now my life is complete. I don't have one of those stories. What I can share with you is I know that everything is a journey, and I know that everything takes time. Your body needs to adjust. It's like building a new muscle. But what I can guarantee you is that I've seen a massive, massive shift in my clarity. I've seen a massive shift in the amount of downloads I'm getting and my ability to see messages in everything, which I've always honed on, has grown. So I don't know if that's from the morning. I don't know if that's from the fact that I've just started devouring books for myself. I'm sure there's people out there that, think like, 4 or 5 books a month reading plus a few listening to audio is a joke. To me, that's great. That puts me on pace for roughly, let's say 90 some odd books this year. I remember when I started listening and reading the audio, like I signed up for Audible thinking, okay, if I can finish a book a month, that's 12 new books. Well, now that goal is kind of like, wow, 100 is in the perception. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's the fact that I'm just putting in a lot more information. But the combination of those things for someone that's truly saying, I want to reach a new level in my life. Well, guess what? I want to reach a new level in my life. And I realized that to reach a new level in my life, I have to do new things. Like when I want to get fit, I try new exercises all the time. I'm constantly looking on YouTube for new things to do, new diets, not really new diets, new exercises, new type of routines, anything to kind of mix it up and throw my body into a little bit of this like, oh shit, what are we doing now? And I like to feel uncomfortable. And I like where my body doesn't really know what it should or should not be doing. So this to me seemed like one of those things. And I'll leave you with this one thing, which was another argument I had about it. And I think this kind of ran with the alarm clock thing, which is, as an entrepreneur, people love their freedom. And whenever you put so much structure in your life, it kind of, to the ego, I think what I'm realizing, feels like you're losing that freedom. But I can assure you that the more structure you have to your life, the more freedom in a sense it provides. Now, I know that sounds oxymoronic, like an oxymoron, not oxymoronic. I don't think that's a word. But think about this example, and I got this from Craig Ballantyne's book. Two people wake up in the morning. One wakes up, their alarm clock rings, they snooze it 3 times, they finally jump out of bed, get their kids dressed, brush their teeth, grab their stuff, grab a donut or waffle or whatever the heck it is in the cup of coffee, get in the car, run into work, get to work, be like, okay, what do I need to do today? But they're kind of tired, kind of groggy. So they spend the first hour or whatever just doing nothing, basically like looking at their screen. You know what? Let me maybe get some coffee, go get some coffee, get back, do a hour of work. Then it's lunchtime, go eat lunch, come back from lunch, exhausted. Then dick around and look at their clock and go, oh crap, I didn't get anything done. And then try to get all this stuff done. In the last hour or two that they have at work, their boss comes in their office, be like, hey, on top of that thing that I need you to do, we also need to finish this. Call your wife, hey honey, sorry, can't come home, have to work late. Come home, exhausted, get in front of the couch, check out, wake up, do the whole thing again. So what happened? You missed your kids. You missed time to spend with your wife. You felt pretty much stressed and or groggy or tired all day. To me, not really free. On the other hand, if you have a schedule where you know what time you need to go to bed, you know what time you're waking up, you wake up, you take your time, you have time for yourself, you have time to get your mind in the right space. So it's not triggered and reactive, it's just prepped. You've done your entire routine. Part of that routine could be you spend 10 minutes figuring out what your day looked like, what you need to accomplish that day. You go out, get to work. As soon as you get to work, you know exactly what you need to work on. Great. Bang out lunch, get back to work, do whatever you got to do. You're out of work by 4 because you've maximized your time. Even if your boss gives you something new, you already finished the first thing before lunch, right? So maximizing your time, get home early, get to spend that time with your kids, get to spend that time with your wife. Plan the day, your following day already because you've already gotten in that habit. And by putting in that structure, you give yourself the time and freedom to do the things that really matter to you in a non-stressful way, in a absolutely, what's the word I'm looking for? Absolutely like laser focused way because you know what you need to accomplish. So wanted to share that little bit of wisdom with you. Really, really changing my life. It hasn't changed, but changing my life. And give it a try. Just give it a try. And if waking up at 5, by the way, just so you know, like my schedule now is I set my alarm for 5:30. 5 just seemed like I had way too much time in that morning section. So 5:30, meditate, read, wake up with the kids, get them ready, all that stuff. And then I'm at work usually around 9. So it gives me a lot of time between 5:30 to 9. Like I've accomplished what most people will do in 3 days, you know? So definitely give it a try. You don't have to be so rigid. Just mess with it. And if going from waking up at 7:30 to 5:30 is a huge jump for you, then wake up at 7 and then wake up at 6:30. Trust me, your body can get used to whatever. Just give yourself that time and space to get used to that feeling. And it's okay if you feel groggy at night. That's just part of the body rejigging itself, okay? So hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know what you thought. As always, Elon@SatoriPrime.com. If you have a routine and a routine's working for you, I'm always looking for ways to enhance mine. So feel free and drop it in the comment box if you're watching this on YouTube, or write me an email, Elon@SatoriPrime. And lastly, dates have been set for our new event. It is now in November in San Diego. You can find out all the information at youwillhaveitall.com. And we're going to be hosting, I think around every 2 weeks, we're going to be hosting personal development webinars where we share with you some of the wisdom and some of the things that happen at the live event. So you can check those out at youwillhaveitall.com/webinar. Much love to you all. Have an amazing rest of your week and weekend, and I will talk to all of you soon.
ran through doors till you hit the floor? Did you read my eyes and my aching thoughts? Did you walk through walls till you had to grow? Oh my God, your smile and my soundless calls.